All right, so thank you again, everyone. And so on behalf of Pacific Alumni Relations, we want to welcome Nicole Grady. So Nicole Grady is actually an alumni. She graduated in 2005. And not only that, but she works at the university as our special collections librarian. And so today we're going to be following up. If some of you attended our Muir talk a couple weeks ago, this is kind of a follow-up for that and another Muir project that I will turn over, let Nicole explain to you what that's all about, and we're going to have a really good time. So thank you so much, Nicole, for being here, and we look forward to it.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. So Chris said, I'm the librarian here at the Holt-Atherton Special Collections and Archives, where we have the university's archives and papers, and we have multiple one-of-a-kind collections, including the John Muir papers. So today I'm going to go over the John Muir transcription project and what's involved with being a volunteer transcriber or citizen curator. There we go. Okay. So first off, a little bit, if you attended Mike's talk earlier this month, you kind of already know who John Muir is. But if you're unsure, he was a renowned naturalist, explorer, writer. He's known as the father of our national parks, pretty big deal in California and in the environmental movement. And so his connection to Pacific, you might be wondering a little bit about, besides the fact that we have his papers. Why do we have his papers? Many of his descendants and descendants-in-laws were actually alumni as well. So they felt that Pacific was going to be a very good fit for his papers, and in 1970, we became the repository for them. And so they are made up of his correspondence, his journals, his notebooks, manuscripts, articles, and his personal library. All of that is being preserved here at Pacific. In 1986, the papers, they created a microfilm project. So a lot of John Muir's papers were actually put on microfilm that people could purchase, use for their personal research, or come and see. And if they weren't able to visit us personally, other libraries had copies of these, and so they could, it was the first wave of getting Muir's works out there and available to people around the world. In the 2000s, they took the microfilm and they digitized it and they made it available online, so a much wider population could definitely access his material. And to this day, we are still adding, we continue to add and transcribe his works that we receive and make it available for people everywhere. This picture here is an example of one of his drawings of the Sierra Nevada. On the right side of the image, you can see that it has been downloaded 30 times. Our current digital platform, we started it in 2017, so that's just for this one item that we have has already been used 30 times. The transcriptions, they started with his letters. And so when I mention his correspondence, there are over 7,000 correspondence, both to and from Muir, that have been completely transcribed. So those are all word searchable and available online. 78 of his journals that have been transcribed. There are only 6 remaining that still need to be completed. They've all been, the transcription on them have all been begun. They just need to be completed. And so since they were coming so close to being finalized, we recently added 25 notebooks of his to the online platform, and 6 of them have been started. The other ones have not. So this is very exciting that we're so close to having all of these very important Muir works completely transcribed and searchable. And the reason that we need volunteer transcribers or community curators is because his journals and notebooks, they range from 20 pages to 110 pages. So there is a lot of material out there that we need help transcribing. And you may be wondering, why transcribe it if it's up there, isn't it? People can, if they're interested in Muir, they should just come to our page and be like, hey, there it is. So word for word transcriptions open up many more possibilities for researchers and the general public to find, read, and understand Muir's thoughts as he experienced them. It also facilitates online searching to locate information by specific topics. And one of the last reasons why you guys should be interested in becoming transcribers is it's fun, especially if you like a challenge and puzzles. Figuring out or deciphering Muir's words, it can be entertaining. And so I mentioned on this slide that more than, since we moved to our platform in 2017, that more than 60,000 people from around the world have accessed Muir's works. And when I say around the world, I mean around the world. This is a map that shows all the places that have accessed our online repository for only Muir's works. And it is everywhere. Of course, the majority of it you can see is here in California on the West Coast. But it is really something that speaks to people around the world and calls to them. All right, so down to some of the nitty gritty. In your registration email, your first one that you received, there was a link to the style guide for transcribing. If you had a chance to look at it, great. If you didn't, don't worry about it. I'm going to do a quick run through right now. So the guidelines, what you need to know is it's all about brackets. If you can't make out a word, if it's illegible, bracket it. If it's crossed out or if you are spelling out an abbreviation, go ahead and just put brackets on it. Even sketches. If you see a sketch, we use the word sketch in brackets so people understand, hey, they can search just this word and pull up every sketch or doodle that Muir has in his papers. You don't have to include his original line breaks and worry about that. Also, if you do get into becoming a transcriber, we recommend that you only do one page at a time and send it in. It can be tedious and it can get a little frustrating, and we don't want to dissuade anyone from continuing to transcribe. And also, sometimes people don't contact us when they start transcribing, so they'll jump in and may not know that someone else is already transcribing that. So instead of having two people both transcribing the same 10 images, we prefer that you were each transcribing 10 separate images so we get more bang for our buck, so to speak. So let's go ahead and check out a couple of examples. So I just clipped out this section of Muir's handwriting. This is a legible sample of Muir's writing. All of the words were able to be deciphered and figured out. As you can see the transcription below it, there are no brackets. And I can see maybe some of you are like, that's legible. It is very legible for Muir. This is also one of the few times that Muir mentions Stockton with any detail. It's a letter to his 3-year-old daughter, Wanda, from him, and he's talking about him and his wife being on a trip. So it says, Mama and Papa got onto the cars and the poof poof pulled us to Stockton, and there are many mosquitoes in Stockton, and they stung Mama and wouldn't let her sleep. So always mosquitoes in Stockton. So this is, as I said, a legible sample. So let's go to the next one. This is an example of a not so legible sample. So this is one of his, an example from one of his journals. So for the letter to Wanda, if he was at home writing in his ranch journals, they're very legible. He was sitting at a desk. He was taking his time, so we can read them fairly accurately. So this journal to Yellowstone in 1885, who knows where Muir was when he was writing it? Was he on a rock? Was he under a tree? Was he standing in the middle of the river writing his thoughts down before he forgot them? So that makes a big difference in where he was writing, on how legible his writing is. So as you can see in the second line, we've put leaf in brackets. If you can find it, let me see if I can point it out here, right here. I'm pretty sure that is leaf, but not 100%, so brackets. Over here in the third line, pretty sure that word is loosely, pretty sure he's spelling it wrong. So as you can see in the transcription, we put the misspelled loosely in brackets because we're not 100% sure if that's what the word is, but we've also put the correct spelling in brackets. Because if somebody is doing a word search, I mean, hopefully nobody's looking for loosely anyways, but if it was a more important word, they're gonna look for the correct spelling. And Muir didn't always use correct spelling. The two words after that starts with an F, I know that. I don't know what the rest is. This one here, maybe it starts with an S and ends with a D. I don't know. Blank brackets. So at least with the blank brackets, you're able to let people know, hey, there are words here, we don't know what they are. Hopefully when researchers come to this page and they're looking at the transcription, they are not just looking at the transcription, that once they find something in a Google search, that they go to Muir's actual words and can try to figure it out themselves. For the last word in this third line, is it maker? Is it maple? I don't know again. So I put brackets and I put both of those down because I believe that they're both possible. It's also possible that it's a whole nother third word that I don't know. If I was able to figure out the two words in front of it, I could probably guess by what makes sense in the sentence, but that's not always, it's not always the case. And again, for the last two lines, there are two words that we're pretty sure what they are, but not 100%. So as I said, this is an example of illegible writing from Muir, or not so great. The other one was legible. The one that I have for you today is more on the legible side. So I was hoping to break you guys in easy to start practicing to become Muir transcribers. Yeah. So hopefully that I can like lure you in to be like, oh, I want to do this. And then eventually you'll want to hit the hard stuff. So for today, you should have gotten links in an email right before this telling you which page you're going to be transcribing today. So the notebook that we're doing is the Shasta, Yosemite, Dead Rivers notebook. Muir visited those places in 1874, but he didn't write the notebook until around, we think, 1887. So it's kind of him remembering what happened during that time. But what I need you guys to remember is to capture as many words as you can per page. The order of the words, the style of the words, if they're underlined, if they're crossed out, etc. And the spelling, they don't matter. Just get the words. If a word is misspelled, add it and the word correctly spelled after it. If it's unclear what the word is, put your guess down. Put two guesses down. It's okay to be wrong. This is about word harvesting. It's about the researchers out there who have no idea that this exists until they do a Google search, and because of the words that you guys have provided, they're able to get to their document. Before I send you off, let's go ahead. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to share the page, what you guys are going to see.
And so, Nicole, while you're searching through that for everyone, I did just in the chat copy each and everyone's link there. So you can find it in the chat section. That should be able to pull up your section. So hopefully that makes it easy for you to get into it. So
exactly. So when you go to our digital collections for Muir's notebooks and you select this particular notebook, this is the page that it's going to bring you to. Each of the pages have been scanned as their own individual image. And so I'll go ahead and click on one. So you guys are being sent directly to the records page, which will which will look like this. With the link that you received, you should also have something saying if you're going to do the left side or if you're doing the right side. When we break up, or when you guys go off to do the transcriptions today, you'll get about 20 minutes. And as beginning transcribers, I don't expect you guys to completely transcribe a whole page. This is just to get your feet wet and to see if it's something that you'd be interested in doing long-term for us. Although everything that you do transcribe today is helping us out, because you're going to send it to me. As Chris said, he has already put my, or will be putting my email into the chat. So when you're transcribing, do whatever works for you. So we have a download button where it'll download the image as a JPEG and you can manipulate it however you want. You can also use the viewer here. So if you go to this little toggle icon, it should fill your page with it. And then there are zoom in and zoom out buttons where you can just click it one at a time, or you can hold on to the little triangle and slide it along the scale until it's at a size that's going to work for you. These are all scanned at pretty high resolution, so you can zoom in pretty good to get a real feel for what the letters are. So if you had this image and you were starting on the left side, you just start up here at the 2 and work your way down. What are you transcribing it on to? Again, it's going to be whatever you're comfortable with and whatever works for you. So if you're comfortable with opening up a Word document and putting it next to the transcription as you're doing it, perfect. If it's easy for you to start a new email, since you're going to be emailing these to me anyways, you can start putting the transcription straight into the body of an email. Again, and especially if you just get addicted to this, or if you decide to become a regular transcriber, you're going to figure out what works for you, what you're most comfortable with, whatever it's going to take for you to transcribe and get the finished results back to me. So let's go ahead and meet back at 1:45. Let me go ahead and I'll stop sharing this screen if I can. Okay. If you guys have any questions right now, again, this was just a kind of a gloss over. So it really is just you guys jumping in and giving it a go. You pull up your page and you just start typing away with what you can make out. Again, don't worry if you send back a page that is 5 words and 20 brackets, that's okay. That's what you can do. As you get more familiar with Muir's writings, it'll become easier and easier, and you're like, oh, that's what he's talking about. I was transcribing his words for almost a year, and he kept using this abbreviation or the symbol that looked like LOL. And I'm like, Muir is not talking about laughing out loud. What does this mean? And then finally there was a sentence that it used, and it came to me as an epiphany. I was like, oh, that's his symbol for between. So instead of writing out the word between, he had 2 lines with a circle between them, and that's how he indicated between. So Muir has these little, his own personal shorthand. The style guide link that you have also has a list of the known ones that we're aware of, but different ones always pop up. Sometimes he just uses the letter V, and that's it. So again, get familiar with his writing, try it out. I'll be here for the 20 minutes. So as you're doing something, if something comes up or something's not working for you, go ahead and ask the question. Put it in the chat box or raise your hand, and Chris will let me know who has the question, and I'll answer it to the best that I can.
Yeah, so we actually have a question, so great example. So Jay just asked if we should attach the picture of the page when we send the email to you.
Not this time. We sent everybody a specific page, so if you send me an email, I have your email list and I can go and see what page you have. If you wanted to copy and paste the title of the record that you have, that's fine. But I don't need the page attachment because I'll go back to the page whenever I do quality control on them.
All right, great, thanks. So I'm going to put on a little bit of background music. I'll try to keep it low. That way we can get some work done, and we'll let you know when we have like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And so thank you, Nicole. I look forward to puzzling my page out. So
Yeah, no. And remember, this is supposed to be fun, not stressful.
So, all right. Let's go ahead and share. All right, just giving a time check. We're about 10 minutes in, so keep up the good work.
Chris?
Yes.
See in the chat that someone had mentioned about they didn't receive a link.
Oh, yep, I replied to that privately. So,
Okay, cool.
yep,
Just making sure.
thank you for checking though. I appreciate that. So yeah, we got that over to Lisa. She's working on that. And I think we also linked the style guide. So if anyone has any questions or comments about that, they can take a look on that. If you're having any questions, we have Nicole here, so feel free to ask. Right, so we got 5 minutes left. So if you're working, continue to work. Again, as Nicole said, if you don't finish, that's perfectly fine. Hopefully you are intrigued enough to continue on later, but right now we're just getting a taste of this. So I know I'm gonna have to come back and work on this later because this is pretty cool.
Yeah, and especially if you're not that familiar with cursive, it takes a little bit to get into it.
right, so we got 3 more minutes left. All right, so we got 2 minutes. Go ahead and finish what you're working on and we'll bring it back. So we have a question for you, Nicole. And so I think if so we have 1 minute left, so how about we just bring it back together and we can answer questions. I think that'll be a good time for people to do that. So wherever you're at, if you want to kind of save that.
Yeah, always save.
Always, yeah. Yeah, I'm actually going to do that right now. Hold on 1 second. Okay, saved. I got a question from Lisa, and it says, where Muir underlines a word, do I underline it? Where are the crossed out words with somewhat ineligible pencil above them?
Okay. So yeah, if Muir somehow bolds something, underlines something, we don't worry about that. So you're typing it. If he crosses something out, we put the crossed out word or phrase. So I had one where I was doing it as well. And if it makes you guys feel better, in that 20 minutes, I did get through a whole half a page, but I've been doing it for a while. So if you guys did not get through a whole half a page, you guys are just starting. So feel pretty good about whatever you did do. So Muir had crossed out very much. So I put both very much into one bracket to indicate that it is crossed out. In some of his works, he's crossed out whole paragraphs, and we just put the whole paragraph in a bracket. That's just to indicate that it was crossed out.
All right, great. Yeah, so if people want to kind of wrap up what they're working on, then Nicole can kind of bring us back together and people can ask questions, how they felt. So I'll turn that back over to Nicole, but one more time, I'm just gonna urge everyone that's working on there to tear yourself away. And don't worry, there's plenty of projects that you can continue to work on. So right now, let's come back together and I'll turn it back over to Nicole.
Yeah, sounds good. The one question I think she also mentioned was if it's something written above. So he crossed out in brackets, but if it's just something like Muir went back and edited his work a lot. So sometimes he just has sentences written above a sentence. Nothing's crossed out. So we just kind of put it in whatever order we think works. And you don't necessarily have to bracket it if it just looks like he was adding stuff in later on.
Great.
So yeah, what did you guys think? Hopefully some of you will want to continue to become Muir transcribers. Some of you are going to be like, I never want to see Muir's handwriting again, which we have had transcribers in the past where we have some one-offs where someone comes along, does one image, sends it to us, and we never hear from them again. And then we've had 1 or 2 dedicated transcribers who have done a whole journal or notebook by themselves. And it really just depends. Sometimes we've gone months without having any transcribers. And then sometimes, like recently, it seems like we have more transcribers, I'm guessing because people are staying at home and are looking for things to stimulate their mind. Because I think right now we have about 3 or 4 regular transcribers working on something. So it just depends.
Very, very cool. So we got 2 more questions of when people were transcribing. So from Hal, If we might know a word, should we guess?
Yeah, definitely guess. Put it in brackets if you're not 100% sure. Sometimes you're like, I can't make out that word, but if I read this whole sentence, this word makes sense and it looks like it could be that. Put it in brackets. Definitely.
Cool. So brackets are our friends. So even
They
if
are a friend.
and Catherine kind of has a similar question. Should we look up a botanical word if we can? So you know, Muir obviously had a language to describe plants and everything, and if we're not into that language, should we be looking up those botanical words?
Definitely, especially if you're interested. So I've come across a couple where I'm like, I've never seen this word before in my life, and Word says it's not a word, so I Google it, and this very beautiful plant will pop up on Google for me saying, this is actually what he's talking about. And I've gotten actually a couple for my garden that way. But yeah,
Nice.
if you're not sure, plug it in. I Googled the one I was working on. I couldn't make out the word in front of Butte. And it's talking about Mount Shasta, and I was like, it looks like it could be crater, so I put in Crater Butte Shasta, and sure enough, there is a crater right there at the base of Mount Shasta. So I'm like, okay, that's probably that word. So I've definitely Googled Muir.
There you go. Yeah. So if people want to unmute themselves and kind of just share how this experience was for them, I think that'd be a kind of a cool thing since we're all in this together. And
Yeah. Oh, and Mike Wertz points out that Googling a word helps with spelling assist. Muir also liked to make up words. So and today when I was transcribing, he had a word called sulfurious. Word does not recognize that as a word. So he liked to add es or ness, or he liked to add all these endings to words that didn't normally have those endings. So you will see that. Just plop them on down there.
Yeah, this was fun.
Good. Glad.
Yeah, just amazing. I'm sitting here in my living room, you know, half working and doing the COVID thing, and I'm reading this page from John Muir in his own handwriting that's describing trees and streams, and he's talking about the river and the valley, and it's super fun. I'm already caught up. I'm signing up. This is great.
Yeah, I found
We want to hear.
I found the same thing.
Me too. Addicting.
Yep.
Excellent. And then once you get into it and you can see what hasn't been transcribed, definitely pick. You're like, hey, I'm interested in Yosemite, or I've been to Yosemite, don't really care. I live in this area in Colorado that he's talking about. I'd much rather write a transcribe about an area I know. And that's definitely cool as well.
Yeah, in it, this is how the bit I got was about McCloud River, and I'm up here in Northern California in that region, so that was kind of exciting. I want to continue doing this. This is awesome.
Great. Yeah, it always helps me to figure words out too if I'm from that area, because I'll be like, oh, I know what he's talking about, and I'll read things with like places I've never been, and I'm like, is that even a place?
And how this is Mike Wertz. I hate to. Nicole's doing a fantastic job, but I gotta jump in at some point. You bring up a really good point, Hal, especially if you're up in that part of the state. For example, if you go into the drawings and you search for Shasta, you'll find that Muir has 2 or 3 drawings of Shasta. One that's taken from Sheep Rock, which is on the north side of Mount Shasta. So you can go back, and I've been trying to figure out exactly where he sat when he made that drawing. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do out there.
Sheep Rock, I remember that.
Yeah, there's a.
So what's the process for signing up for this?
Just send us an email. Whatever you finish today, go ahead, send it to me in an email, and then you can just say that you want to continue with this notebook, and I can give you some pages that weren't assigned today, or I can send you a link of a list of things that have not been started if you want to jump in on one of those, and then we just start up an email conversation.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think you know, one other kind of cool thing that maybe when you're emailing Nicole, if you could if you just want to include that you were part of this event today, and then maybe we can kind of get together, us as a group, of those of us who were here together, and then that way, you know, we have someone to talk to it about. Because I know as I was reading through some of this, like just the images, and it's like, oh my goodness, I want to talk to someone about this. So, you know, we could do that as well. So, Nicole, maybe you could share your screen one more time with the very front page, so that way it has your email on there. And then that way we can let people see that. So, all right, and then, yeah, so very, very cool. I'm gonna, so that way we can email those to Nicole, and if you want to continue to do this, you can let her know, and again, she'll help out and assign people pages. Oh, there we go. We're gonna start sharing. Almost. Looks like Zoom is thinking about it right now.
Like maybe.
So, oh, there you go. So if you want to just push, there we go. So for everyone, that is Nicole Grady's email right there. Just one more time, so that way you have it. So if you want to write that down, type it in, send in what you were working on right now. If you want to finish up the page, I'm sure you're able to do that. So yeah. And then let's see here. I have another question. So coming in. So if sentences look like they should have a period at the end but doesn't, do I add one inside a bracket?
No. We don't worry about the punctuation being in brackets. If it's like he completely starts another paragraph and you put in a period, the sentence before it, that's completely fine. Sometimes his periods actually look like lines, but then you wonder, is that a line, a period, a comma? So you don't have to bracket punctuation, and whatever your judgment says, it's okay to put in.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see here. Lorena just has a shout out to the group that says that she has to get back to work. So thank you everyone for joining us during the middle of the day, and that she wants to be included on any list for this group. So I will look out for an email from Chris Ortega. I'll just send each of you an individual email to see if you want any additional, if you want to be included as a group, and then we can kind of start that up. So I'll go ahead and jump off here and send that to each of you on there. So that's really great. And then we have a question from Catherine. Do any of you staffers work with Sally Miller, or was she before your time?
I can jump in. Nicole, did you ever meet Sally?
Yeah, she was here a couple of years when I was here a couple of years before she retired. I guess I should say it that way.
Yeah. She was wonderful. We were sorry to hear of her passing, but she was absolutely a wonderful researcher. She was the last researcher that we would allow in the archives with a pen. She insisted on using a pen, and so she had special dispensation. I remember when I first worked here in 2004, and she came in and she's sitting there working with a pen, and I walk up to her and I said, we don't allow pens in the archives, because if you use a pen, that's a one-way ticket on that one. So and she says, no, I'm allowed to use a pen in here. And so we always let her use a pen.
I like that. I'm allowed to.
And it looks like Lisa also took a couple of her classes. So
cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. So got some of that. So
can I make a couple more comments real quickly?
Yeah, definitely. Let's if you want to make any comments, and then we'll pass it over to Nicole to wrap it up for today, and then we'll let everyone get on their way. But yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and thank you, Catherine. That's fantastic. Having a scholarship in Sally's name is fantastic. Yeah, just a couple things I want to emphasize what Nicole was talking about. One is, Googling is amazing. If you have a word that kind of looks like the word that you think mirror type, go ahead, slam it into Google, and sometimes Google says, do you mean this? That's been really useful. And I think another thing I'd want to emphasize is lines, whether something's been crossed out or if it's been, if it's underlined or whatever, just ignore all those lines. Pretend you don't see any lines. You know, you don't see underlines, you don't see crossed out, just ignore all that stuff and just grab all those words.
Mhm.
Cool.
And for those of you wondering, if you did not go to Mike's talk previously, he is in the collections.
Yeah, I'm her boss. But this is great. This is probably the, I'm trying to think if this is the first time I've actually sat down and done or worked through an entire page like this. So this has been a great opportunity. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's shown an interest, and I'm especially excited if it's got you hooked and we can add on some more transcribers to our project. I think this is going to be great. Shoot me an email, or if you have contacts with Chris, you have questions, let us know. If you're in the area and we ever get to see people again in person, come on down and actually check out what we have here in the special collections. We can, for special people and transcribers count, we can pull out a couple of John Muir's actual items for you to take a look at, especially if you're like, I really want to see the journal in person that I've been transcribing so hard.
There you go. Yeah. And so if anyone wants to rewatch Nicole's kind of introduction, then we will have that available at pacificalumni.org/tigerstogether. And if you want to watch Mike's talk that he gave a couple weeks ago to really get in the mood, you can go back and find that also on pacificalumni.org/tigerstogether. So that is two places that you can get that. Please feel free to email myself or Nicole, so you have our contact. And thank you so much for spending your lunchtime, noontime here with us. Yeah, comment on there. Mike's book is fabulous, so you'll get to see. He's writing a book. It is definitely amazing. So
Thank you, Jay.
we are very lucky as Pacific alumni to be able to have access to these things, to these wonderful staffers, Nicole and Mike. Both of you, thank you so much, as well as each and every one of you coming and putting in work today. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. I'll go ahead and just hang out here for a couple more minutes in case anyone has any final questions, but thank you so much for coming. Have a wonderful day.